Saturday, May 18th at 7:15 p.m. at Desert Song Healing Arts Center. See the documentary Walk With Me, A Journey into Mindfulness featuring Thich Nhat Hanh, narrated by Benedict Cumberbatch. This is a joint presentation from our friends at Phoenix Film Collective and Desert Song Healing Arts Center. Its tickets are $8, and the event features a 30-minute stretching and breathing session before the film. You can get your tickets at desertsongyoga.com or phxfilmcollective.com. That's phxfilmcollective.com. I'm very proud of the fact that I got the date right this time. All right, let's get into the show. Hey there, everyone. Thanks for listening to Limited Engagement. I'm your host for the show, Jared Duran, and this is a conversation with Ron Riekki. Ron is somebody who submitted a manuscript back in the Four Chambers Press days, and it was one of those that when I read it, I immediately fell in love with it. The writing was funny, smart, just kind of insane too. It was a collection of essays which came over to Hoot and Waddle when Four Chambers Press stopped pressing, and we brought books on to Hoot and Waddle. And it's called Post-Traumatic. You might have heard me talk about it before because we released it a couple of months ago. And the essays in there, if you want to look at it from just, a standpoint of lifetimes lived, and you think about living one, but it seems like some people managed to cram several lifetimes worth of experience into a single one, and Ron is one of those guys. He, amongst other things, including being a writer and poet and screenwriter, has been in the military, 2 branches of the military. He taught English to inmates in prison, creative writing specifically. He has been an English professor at various institutions throughout the country. He's got 4 advanced degrees from various institutions across the country. He's been an actor, continues to be an actor. He's been a stand-up comic. He was an EMT. He's, I believe, studying to get his EMT license currently. He was basically an expat for a while in China, working for an advertising firm there. It's just fucking crazy. And when you start rattling those off, you get a picture of somebody who doesn't sleep, who can't sit still. And it's one thing when you're dealing with somebody via email, via phone, and you get one sense of the person, and then meeting them and you get another sense of the person. Now, when you talk to Ron, he is who he is on the page. He's somebody who can't sit still, who has just a million ideas firing at once, and a conversation with him is like watching all of these just different sparks go off, and it's a fascinating thing to watch. And then, so as I mentioned on previous episodes, I took a trip. I did a road trip for a couple of events. One was AWP in Portland, and then the other was San Francisco for a basically what was the launch event for Post Traumatic, even though it wasn't just a Ron event. We got to get him a proper launch event at some point. Although when and where remains a mystery as I continue to navigate the world of an independent publisher. Anyway, in San Francisco, the evening before the event, I met Ron, and we met up at a bookstore, and we're kind of we got to talk about music and talking about the 33 1/3 series, and which is, if you're not familiar with it, it's a series of small books that concentrate on one particular album. It'll be like one person contributes basically an essay, and it becomes an album. I had picked up the ones for Wowie Zowie and EXO and a couple other ones. I think Armed Forces was one of the ones I grabbed too. But so we were talking about music, and then we had dinner, and we're just kind of like shooting the shit and talking about all sorts of stuff. And I wish I had captured that conversation, because talking to him, he was very animated about all of these things that he was involved in, whether it was the film America that's currently out there being shown at festivals and things, or at the time it was just prior to one of the books that he's worked on this year, co-edited, called The Many Lives of the Evil Dead, which is essays on the Evil Dead series. And he was just so excited. And so we had planned to do this recording there in San Francisco. And so we went back to my hotel room and got the recording equipment going. And it was almost like the presence of the microphones just changed the dynamic. Certainly, you'll hear. I would imagine anyway, you'll hear some sounds that are indicative of a handheld mic situation. And it's just that's going to be what it's going to be. And it's just he's so passionate about things. He's very animated about things. And until you try to get him to talk about himself a little bit, and that was my mistake. And I tried to kind of reel it back into other areas, things that he was working on and that sort of thing. And when we got back into that, then things were all right again. But as the title of his collection of essays implies, he has PTSD, and getting him to talk about some of the things that and he's forthright with that in the conversation. Getting him to talk about some of the experiences that he has had. You don't want him to. It can trigger him, and he'll just clam up. And so there's a little bit of that in there, and I think we steered it back into some slightly more relaxed waters. But I really like this conversation, and I think that it's an incredibly compelling reason for anybody who listens to it to pick up a copy of Post Traumatic, because you can see, because that's where he's working through things, and it's a really compelling and wonderful journey to go on, to see somebody tackling their demons and working through their shit. And at this point in my life, it's where I feel like, you know, I am in therapy, and I've been open about that. I had always thought PTSD was something that, you know, it's for soldiers who experience some real shit. But that was my diagnosis, was that essentially I had traumatic things happen in my upbringing, and so it's something that personally I'm having a lot of trouble dealing with and coming to grips with. And so I found this conversation with Ron to be very it was something that had a lot of value to me and that I needed. And I hope you guys get something out of it too, and I hope you enjoy it. And next time, if I have any idea that I might be talking to somebody quite so animated, I will bring them a mic stand. So that's entirely my fault. Anyway, I really appreciate Ron spending the time and talking to me and opening up and really putting himself out there. And here's that conversation. And I'll see you on the other side. Yeah. So, how long have you been out in California now?
It's been, I keep coming in and out of California my whole life. So I move and come back, move, come back. So it's been a bunch of times, like multiple. I like it, but then it's hard to survive here.
It's so expensive.
Yeah, so then I just like abandoned, and right now my girlfriend's keeping it so I can stay here. Otherwise I probably left again.
Oh, that's, you know, any time, like, I don't feel like at home a lot, but anytime like I visit Los Angeles, I always feel like that's where I belong.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I don't say that's where I belong, but Montreal is probably the city where I got to, and I was like, I belong here.
Oh yeah? What about it?
I just felt like home. It just one thing I really liked is there was one time we were sitting at a table, and there's 6 of us, 3 people, two on each side, and the 2 on one side were on this one on the left were all speaking Spanish with each other. 2 people in the middle speaking French. 2 people on the right were speaking English. And we were just all sort of turning in and out of conversations and turning in and out of languages. And I just never done that in the U.S. And I'm sure that, it does happen, but it was like a hell of a lot more there, where it was just like languages. It's not so English dominant, and it's just like a cool feeling.
Right. Well, and I think everybody there has to know French, right? Isn't that like one of the things is that, well, in Montreal especially, it's in Quebec, so...
Yeah. So, you get a lot of French speakers. And, like, I went to France, and I was speaking French there, and this French guy said, "Your French is horrible." And I went to Quebec, and I was speaking French, and the guy said, "Your French is perfect." and it was just because I speak Quebecois is just this mix of sort of like Canadian American and French, and so like my accent was normalized there, whereas I go to France and they're like, "What are you saying? What? I can't even understand you." And I'm like, "What? They told me in Quebec I'm perfect."
I was actually just listening to this whole podcast that was on that. That was, well, the podcast in general is on linguistics. So, cool. But they did an entire episode on regional dialects of French in Canada.
Oh, that'd be cool.
And yeah, it was pretty cool. Cool. But they talked about
what was the name of that podcast?
It's called The Vocal Fries.
I would listen to that. Cool.
And it's like fast food fries. So
oh, funny.
It's a fun play on stuff. But so I'm curious because I want to talk about all that as far as